Hello, everyone, and welcome to People of Interest, a show that is based on the stories of people like me and you. Today I have a guest, Edmund Tonry. He is here for the second time. The last time he was here, we did not have enough time to cover all of the amazing things in his life, or the stories that he wanted to tell. So I asked him again if he could come, and we can continue to hear his story. Thank you very much, Mr. Tonry, for joining me. Appreciate it.
Nice.
So we were just talking about I had a few props in here that you brought.
Yes.
That these are your brother's things that
Yes.
he's done in the
Yes.
past. What is he an illustrator?
Yes.
Let me show what you Tony.
Let me start with my brother. Was born in Brooklyn, and he went to school in Brooklyn. And when he graduated from high school, he went to an art school in New York and School of Industrial Art. He graduated from the School of Industrial Art, but he was also interested in gymnastics. During the time he was going to the Brooklyn YMCA and increasing his skills in gymnastics. And he went to Chicago, the University of Chicago, where they had a gymnastic team, and he graduated from the University of Chicago. And when he graduated, he was then called into the Army. At that time, there was a 2-year stint that you had to put in. He got a deferment when he went to college, and when you got out of college, you had to meet the 2 years in the Army. So they called him into the Army, and he was in boot camp for about a week, and then they transferred him to the Army gym at West Point. And he spent his 2 years in the Army in the gym at West Point. The reason that they did that was because he was an Olympic gymnast, and he was going to represent the Army at the Rome Olympics. And you have a picture of it there.
This is a picture of him.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
No, that's not the picture.
That's not
Is
the
it?
picture.
No, that's
Right.
me.
This is you. I thought your brother looks a lot like you.
No, it's here. It is.
Oh, okay. That's a small. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
this is the Olympic team, which he was the
Right.
captain of the
him.
Olympic team.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. So he was an Olympic athlete,
yes,
and he was also an illustrator.
correct.
An illustrator.
And
Very good illustrator.
when he finished his 2 years at West Point and the Olympics, then he was asked by Yale if he wouldn't be a coach. They didn't have good coaching at Yale for the girls' gymnastics and the men's gymnastics. So since he was so well known in the sport, he got a job at Yale, and he taught the women's gymnastics and also the men's gymnastics, and they competed against all the other Ivy League schools.
So what Olympics were these? What year was this in these Olympics?
What?
What was the year of these Olympics? You remember?
55.
1955.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And he has spent 60 years at Yale, and unfortunately he passed away a few years ago. His wife also was a teacher of and coach at Yale, and she is still at Yale, and she's in her 80s, and she's still the coach of the women's gymnastic team.
Wow.
Yeah.
80 years old, still
Right.
teaching gymnastics.
And so my brother has these books here, on the table that he has illustrated, and
These are illustrated by him.
he has a partner in the business of gymnastic aids, and the partner was my wife Mary, and she was the administrator, the packer. She did all the work to the printers and proofread all of his work, and they worked together in order to get these books out on the market. And my wife sold these books all over the world, and it was limited type of sales because of the type of gymnastics it was. It only had to be interested to certain countries and so on. And she did a very nice job with it for many years. These books are no longer on sale, but they will be available at Catalina's.
Yes.
And
That's what you
it
said.
would be at no charge.
The poster also?
And the posters, if anyone the posters,
I
they
may
will be
have to grab the
available.
poster tonight. I get first dibs. I'm just kidding. All right, so these books are available free at Catalina's. If you go visit Catalina's, you can just take your pick.
Yes,
Right, because
they
you're
will be
giving them away.
all available
Yeah.
as long as the inventory holds out.
Oh,
depending
there's
on-
more than these.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
I
thought that this was like a
no.
limited.
We have
This is it. Hurry up.
no. So these were all put together, and that was what the business was, and that's where we are. My brother was very successful in the sport. He was a judge also on judging the sport too.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's good. So anybody has a child that's doing gymnastics right now, and you want to go, you can get some books for free at Catalina's.
Yes.
Instruction books.
Now we go on to Mary. Mary is my wife,
Why did you frown when you say that? I'm just kidding. Just go ahead. Carry on.
and my wife was Slavish, and she, her husband, and her mother both came from Slovakia.
Slovakia.
Yes.
Okay.
And they both settled here in this country. One in Pennsylvania and one in New York. Her father was in Pennsylvania, and he went to school to the 8th grade. When he got to the 8th grade, they decided that he would go into the coal mines. At that time, if your father worked in the coal mines, you were going to go into the coal mines. What he didn't quite see it that way. So there was a freight train that ran by where they lived in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and he hopped the train, and he thought he was going to New York, but it was going west, and he ended up in Wyoming. And when he got to Wyoming, in order to get some kind of work at 14 years old, the only place that would hire anybody and give them lodging was a ranch. So you worked on a ranch, and you lived in a bunkhouse, and you were fed, and you did your work, and that was all. You didn't get a lot of money, but he worked at that until he was 18. And at 18, he joined the cavalry. And the cavalry at that time was chasing the Mexicans back into Mexico from in Arizona.
Was this wasn't during Roosevelt's time? Was
No,
it
this
Teddy
was-
Roosevelt or after that?
No, this is going back further.
Back further.
Oh,
Wow.
1919.
Oh, okay.
And part at the camp that he was at, Patton was also an officer at that camp from West Point. That's when he began his career, Patton. And he was up to the Army until the war came out. When the war came out in 1919, he was considered an enemy alien and they discharged him from the army as an enemy alien because he was born in Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary was that area, and they were aligned with Germany at the time. So by being aligned with Germany, he was now an enemy alien.
Wow.
And he was discharged for 1 year, and because it only lasted 1 year, and after that year was up, he went back into the army, and he stayed in the army for another 4 years.
Well, you wanted to be there, huh?
And after that, he came back to New York, and he married Mary's mother, and they started their family, and that was the interesting story there.
Mm-hmm. How
And
many children did they have besides your
just
wife?
the two.
Just two children.
She had Mary and Walter. They were the two boy.
Mm.
The next step was Mary. She was in high school, and she graduated from high school at the age of 16.
So we're talking about your wife now.
My wife.
Okay.
And she graduated at 16 because in New York they had what they call the rapid class. When you went to junior high school, it was supposed to be 3 years. But if you went into the rapid class in junior high, you can get out in 2. So she gained a year there, and she ended up getting out of school at the age of 16. When she got out of school, the war was starting at that time, and they needed people in the defense plants. She couldn't get a regular job because she wasn't old enough. But in the defense plant, they closed their eyes because they needed people. So she went in, and Rosie de Rivera was
the Riveter, yeah.
was the name of the women that worked in the defense plants.
Yeah.
Yes. So she worked in defense plants until after the war was over. And when the war was over, she then worked for a zipper company. And the zipper company, she worked in the office, and she was doing very well in the office there, and they were setting up a new plant in Sumter, Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And so she volunteered to go down to Sumter to set up their office so that the officers would be able to speak with one another with the same information. So she went down there and set up their office for a year, and when she finished her year, she came back to New York again, and at that time she said, well, I'm going to go on vacation. So her and 2 other girls went up to Maine and spent 2 weeks up in Maine on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
When they had to come back to their jobs after their vacation, the people at the hotel was having a big convention coming in, and they didn't have the help, and they asked these 3 girls if they wouldn't be waitresses at this convention to help them out.
Mm-hmm.
So they stayed an additional week, and they worked at the
hotel.
convention at the hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and they got room and board while they were there for that extra week, and they didn't pay for that,
Mm-hmm.
and they got paid for the services that they put in. Then they decided at that point, we don't want to go back to work. So the 3 girls quit their jobs,
Wow.
and they hitchhiked across the United States. The 3 girls stopped off at every point and relative that they had. And they stopped off at Pennsylvania because Mary's family was in Pennsylvania, and stopped and see all her family. And then they went on and on and on until they got to San Diego in California. And then they were stopping every so often to waitress in order to make enough money to keep going.
Wow.
And when they got out to California, they were kind of broke, so they had to waitress again until they made enough money to fly back home. So when they flew back home, that's when they had to get jobs again. And that's how she started to work at the company that I was working at.
Ah.
And then we got married in 1952. And then from 52 we had the Mary Ann and then Michael.
Well, wait a minute. Let me stop you there for 1 second. There, where she ended up working in your company where you were working, right?
And yes, but it was the Royal Ace Paper Company in
Right.
Brooklyn. Yes.
So how did you meet her?
She was in the next office, and we had to work together. She was scheduling the merchandise coming in, like paper and cartons and stuff, and I was scheduling the machines. So
Right.
I had to work with her in order. She had to know what I was doing in order to keep
Right.
the stuff moving in. So that's how we met.
So for a while it was just a working relationship. Just
Yeah, sit down, and then we started to teach her to drive, but you know.
Oh, that was the trick. You
Yeah.
were teaching-
So anyway, that's how we got married, and then
Well, it can't
We-
be that quick. There's got to be a lot more in this.
yeah,
Yeah.
we moved to Long Island, where we had our home in Valley Stream, Long Island, and then when the company moved out to Indiana, and then then I only stayed there 1 year, and I came back to New York, and we were going to set up a business up in Massachusetts, and that's where we left off on our last pitch. Now we're going to Massachusetts, and we are going to set up a new division there, and that's what we did. We got up to here. We built a house, 4-bedroom house. Before we moved out of Valley Stream, her mother, who lived with us, had a stroke, and she was bedridden and blind, so she couldn't speak, she couldn't walk, she was in bed, and my wife nursed her at that time in Valley Stream. When we moved, we were able to get a stretcher from the fire department, put her in a stretcher, put her in the back of the station wagon, and we drove up to Massachusetts with her into our new house here.
Wow.
And we had a 4-bedroom house, so that we would be able to take care of her. And my wife managed to take care of her for about 10 years before she got another stroke and died, but she did an excellent job. She was a very busy woman. She did everything that a mother would have to do.
Well, let me stop you for 1 second, if I may. Your mother-in-law was blind and she couldn't walk.
Bedridden. She couldn't walk. no.
Bedridden, and your
And
wife
she took care of her all
for
those
10
years. Yes, she would
That's
lift her up
amazing.
out
That's
of
pretty
bed,
good.
put her in a wheelchair,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But she took care of her excellently, and she loved it too. And when we finished that, she then had to look for something to do on the outside, and she was a Cub Scout. She took care of the Cub Scouts meetings and stuff, and then she took care of the Boy Scouts for a while, and then after that, she started as an assistant in the Girl Scouts in not Whitensville, but in Whitensville, and then after a year there, she said, but the other town, Northbridge, doesn't have a Girl Scout group, so she formed the first Girl Scout group in Rockdale. Do you know where the little Rockdale house is up on the end of St. Peter's Church?
St. Peter's Church.
There's a little, they call it the Rock House.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's-
up on the hill.
That's the first.
And that was where the meetings were for the Girl Scouts in that little house there.
Wow.
And she, when she left Girl Scouting, she had another a woman that fed into that role, and it's been going on for many years. I don't know if it still exists or not, but she started the first troop in Rockdale.
Wow.
And then my wife was also nursing her mother, and the nurses would come in once a week and check and make sure that she was being taken care of properly. And the nurses liked my wife so much that they asked her to be on the board of the Nursing Association. So she said yes, and she spent 20 years on the board of the Nursing Association. She worked at the St. Peter's bingo every week when they had bingo. She worked in the kitchen and dedicated herself to that. She worked with the drum corps with the kids. She also at the senior center. She was on the board of directors in the senior center. She also did taxes for the seniors. She took a tax course, and she was able to do the taxes, and she went to all of the towns, Oxford, Millbury, Sutton, Northbridge, all Uxbridge, the whole area, wherever they needed her, she went and done taxes, volunteer taxes.
So what did she do with her spare time?
Huh?
What did she do with her spare time?
She always had spare time.
Really?
She was very capable. She also worked in the store. Now, she worked in the store and she managed the store. So she was the one that did all the billing, and she did all our taxes in the store. She did everything just beautifully. And she's still doing things beautifully. And then we'd take the next step on our. The next step was Michael.
Michael.
You know Michael.
I think I met him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Michael went to UMass, and he was in a business major in UMass, and he worked in the gasoline station out there to earn extra money while he was going there. And he got out of UMass in 4 years, and he did a nice job. And he came back to the store. When he came back to the store, he said, I'm going down to New York. My girlfriend, Mary Donatelli, is got a job down at a school in New York, and she's got a contract to go down there, and he wants to go down too. So
Was he going over there to teach you how to drive or something? Or
no, no, he didn't do that. Well, anyway, he got down to New York, and he wanted to get a good job.
Yeah.
So he got a job as making sandwiches in a sandwich shop. Okay.
Oh,
This
well,
is-
I think we heard this at the first meeting. You told me about this.
Oh,
I
did
believe.
we?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but carry on, go ahead.
Well, anyway, he came back all the way back to our store eventually after a year out there. And after that, he wanted to go into business. And of course, we didn't know anything, but we got a letter from the Texaco company saying that there was the things that we asked them about it was a garage that was for sale that they had was now for sale. Before it was for sale, but it wasn't for sale because they couldn't sell it at that period.
Yeah.
So then we said okay. So we bought the building, and then Michael said he wanted to go into business, and then he started his business, and he's ran his business very good because he's a good salesman.
What was Michael's business?
He was at the 495 rental center.
Oh,
And
so he
Milford.
started his own rental business?
Yes.
Oh.
So we didn't believe in partnerships.
Oh, okay.
If we helped him, he paid back the money that we helped him with. So you were either your boss or you weren't. And then he had put in his I forget how many years, probably 30 or 40 years, and he then retired just a couple of weeks ago, and now he's a retired businessman. Then the next guy come along was Paul.
Paul.
Paul was 10 years younger than the rest of them, and he went to MIT for his first year, and they asked him to step out after the first semester.
Why? It's a little rough.
Then he signed up in UMass, and they asked him to step out after the first semester. So after that, we said that we're not paying any more school, and so he said, I'll get even with you. So he joined the Army, and he got 6 years of schooling from the Army.
Oh, that's
He
great.
stayed in school. We couldn't get him out. we want him to work in the store, and he's going to school all the time.
Okay,
So
he
he
wants
spent
to go to
6
school.
years, and when he finally his degree time came, he didn't have all the credits that he needed after 6 years because he didn't have physical education. And then the school decided to give him the diploma based on his 6 years in the Guard. That would be physical
Yeah,
education.
physical education. I mean, it's
Okay,
important, but
so he finally got his degree.
oh, that's great. That's
And
great.
then he comes back and is going to work in the store in Northbridge here. And he does things very well, and he can see things that we can't see. We had a storage area up in Millbury. We had chairs that we couldn't fit into our building, so we had that storage area for about a year or so. And then they told us we have to get out of the storage area because they were going to use the building. So we had to find another storage area. So we found one over in Manchog. There was a building there. It was for rent, so we paid them rent, and we stored our chairs there and whatever surplus equipment into the building. The building was very old. It was built in 1865, and the floors were 3-inch boards, but they were 100 years old. And the floors kind of started to break. You can't go in this part of the floor because you go fall through it, and this. So Paul decided that he looked at the building. He said, we're going to do something with it. So they had the building up for sale, so we bought the building, and then by having it up for sale, when we bought the building, now we could do something in it, and it would be ours. So he decided what he wanted to do. He went to an architect, an engineer that would be able to know the structure of a building, and he came and he gave us a drawing of what we should do in the building and have all the structures and stuff. And he took it on his hands and all by himself. He renovated the whole building. He put in cement floors on 3 floors, and today it's a beautiful building.
Where is this building now?
Right there in Manchog, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you using it, or is it?
Huh?
Are you using it? Is it part of the business, or?
That's the next step.
Oh, okay.
Well, when we got the building all set up and we had storage area on the 2nd floor, along came a company called American Folding Table that was going out of business, and we bought the company, and we needed tables, and we were buying tables, so and we tried making them ourselves, but we didn't have the proper equipment. But when we bought the equipment from American Folding Table, we brought it into the building, and then Paul was American Folding Table. He was making tables and selling tables, and we were doing okay with the table business. Then we had another one, Arthur Chair, up in Worcester. He was a rental store that was also an undertaker. The undertakers used to rent the chairs, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we bought his chairs and his business, and along came with the business, we got accounts like Holy Cross, WPI, several of the high schools, and so that was a very lucrative type of thing that we did. We get that all together, and we were setting up tables and chairs at the high school, and all of the things. We had a big inventory, 6,000 chairs at the time, and we kept expanding that end of it. And then we were working on tents. We were buying tents from as far as California, and the freight was like $1,000 for a tent from California. So Paul decided, again, we're going to make the tents. Okay. So he goes to Worcester State, and then he takes another course in calculus, and comes back and he says, okay, we're ready. And so he knows now the math that are needed to make the tents. And we buy the equipment. We bought the sealing machines and sewing machines and grommet machines, and then there he's now making tables, he's making tents, and building this inventory up, and also increasing our sales out in the field. And at the present time now, he has built it up to where he has something like 300 tents being set up in Brimfield, like last week. He had the Woodstock Fair with another 30 or 40 tents. And these are big tents now. They're 20 by 40s.
Yeah, it's a big tent, yeah.
They're 40 by 100s, and all different sizes. And that is where he was at that time. And then we decided, well, it's time, Paul. Do you want to buy the business? So he said yes. So he bought the business from us, because I said we don't like to have the owner and one owner, period. No,
One boss.
one boss, and he's the boss. And he's done a fabulous job on it. He can see things that we can't see. He's able to realize exactly what it has to be done and what's fixed. He's a great mechanic. He fixes everything. In fact, if the school has something like the basketball court breaks, who do they call? Paul. He'll take it over there and weld it for them and everything else. And everybody's always calling him for, hey, would you do this for me, Paul? Would you do this? Because he's so capable.
So how was it when they were children, like Paul and Michael, and your daughter is your daughter's name again is
Marianne.
Marianne. So how was it when they were younger children? How did they get along?
Fine.
Yeah?
They've always got along fine.
Michael wasn't a troublemaker, or Paul, didn't.
Paul was he was a kid, 10 years younger.
Oh.
No, but no one even
10
knew. Where, what kid? I don't even
Also,
see him.
Paul was 10 years, and then Michael came along.
No, Michael was the second one.
Michael's
And then Paul was
your
10
daughter-
years, my daughter first,
Yeah, your daughter. Okay. Then,
okay, and then Michael.
Then Michael came
And then
along.
10 years later,
10 years later came Paul.
yeah, and he was born in Massachusetts. These other guys were
Oh.
born in New York.
Oh, okay. So Michael was already 10 years old by the time that Paul came around.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
He was the big brother.
Yeah, he's a big brother and big sister.
Oh. That's
Yeah.
great, yeah.
So that's how it developed, and that's where we are today. I am 93, so
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that then. You're 93 years old now.
Yes.
Okay, and I understand you're going through some treatment.
Yes.
Okay, what is that? What is that about?
Well, it's just radiation at the present time, and I had 10 treatments so far, and
10 treatments.
yes,
Yeah.
and I had a low blood count, which indicates that you're bleeding somewhere internally,
Really?
and that's what the radiation was for, to see if they could stop the bleeding. And we're going from step to step and see just where it ends up. But it's definitely cancer, and it's at a very bad location. And they said 6 months to a year. We don't know.
Okay, so I'm talking to you, and you're telling me they told you 6 months to a year, and you're smiling.
Why?
So
I
tell me how does that work? You're smiling, and
I've had a wonderful family, wonderful life, and I have no regrets. and I want to see that continue, and my family will continue it because they are all nice people.
They're all nice people.
Yes, yes,
Well, they have a wonderful father, so you know it's, what they say about the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right?
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's good.
So you have been reading lately some things, right? You spend a lot of time reading. You spend a lot of time reading. You do a lot of reading.
Yes, yes. I like mostly history,
Mm-hmm.
and I read all of Africa. There's a series out.
All of Africa. The series is called All of Africa.
Yeah, the author wrote about 7 books on Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and it carries them through from the beginning to the end of Africa, and that was very interesting. I read also the one was very interesting was the train building of the train tracks all the way out to California.
Mm-hmm.
There was the whistle blow echo or something like that. The name of the book was the strange whistle at night. You know,
Mhm.
the whistle blowing at night.
It's about trains.
And that was a very interesting book, how the railroads were built
Mm.
and how the mistakes they made in building it.
Do you remember when you first started becoming interested in reading, or reading history, or even reading books themselves?
Well, I always read, but I never read a lot. Then when you got into it, Revolutionary War and then Michener's books and
Mitchell, those are like a suspense, no, or something.
yeah, they all were so good.
Mm.
And you go from one to the other, and it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. But
Keeps your mind active.
yes,
That's good.
we've read all of the ones about Europe. There's I now I'm forgetting the authors.
That's okay. You pass that on to your children for them to be good readers, to spend time reading.
Everyone reads in the family.
That's great.
I don't know of anyone. My son-in-law is the only one that may not like reading because he rather watch television.
Oh, you may start after this show. Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, that's the way the family is going. And but they all enjoy reading, and I like the Kindle. The Kindle.
Oh, you have a Kindle.
Oh yeah.
Kindle is great.
Yeah, my wife has a Kindle, and everybody has a Kindle today.
So if you like reading history, it's one of the things that you like to read about
Yes.
the most.
Mostly, I like historical history, and it's or some kinds of it's you know exaggerated, but I don't mind that. As
Yeah.
long as there's a story to it. It fits in better when you have a story.
Right. Do you
Yeah.
read biographies at all, or?
Well, occasionally, but nothing that I can remember right offhand.
Hmm.
Yeah. I like just anything factual. I'm more of a factual person.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't like a story of a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to ask you also, one of the questions that I ask in the show sometimes is if someone has a particular person in their lives that they think about and they think it's wonderful that this person came into my life. This is because that person has influenced you greatly. Do you have that person or persons that you can think of?
My wife. My
Your-
wife was the real stimulator in the family.
Hmm.
She read everything. She was an avid reader. She just loved books always,
Mhm.
and she wouldn't pass up if there was a word in that book. She would go to that dictionary and look that word up, and next time she would remember that word in that book.
Oh.
She had a fantastic memory for books and other things, and she read everything. Religion. She didn't care what the books was. She would like study this, everything. She loved. Yeah, there was nothing that she wouldn't read that she wouldn't like.
Hmm.
Yeah, she just loved everything.
So in what other ways do you see her as this very important person in your life?
Because she was my partner. she worked with me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
She was the mother of our children. She was the cook. She cooked for all those years. She had fed the family on every holiday. She had 15 people in that living room, and she fed them every holiday. That was her thing. She loved having the family in the house.
Mm.
Yeah. And now, of course, things have changed. We're just not able to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the other children have picked it up. We go to Marianne's house for a holiday now, and we go to Michael's house, and we'll go to Paul's house, and they rotate around the family and keep the family together. Yes. My sister-in-law, Barbara, who's at Yale, she comes up for every holiday, and she enjoys that, to see everybody. You
The
know.
one that teaches gym. You're saying?
Yes, she's
Yeah.
the gymnastic coach. Yes, yes,
It's interesting that there's that gym, which is part of some of your relatives, that you have that your sister that teaches gym,
yes.
and the thing that was causing trouble for Paul was physical ed.
Well, he don't worry about it. He's the most toughest worker that you could possibly.
Yeah.
You would never want to work with him.
Oh,
I always tell the same story when I was younger and he first got into the business, and we would have to go out on a Sunday and tear down tents, and we used to challenge one another. I would say, let's see how many thousands of square feet you can pull down, and I'll see how much you do. So me and another guy, we will pull down maybe 10,000 square feet. Well, he's up to 15,000 square feet, way ahead of us. You know? He's so efficient when he works. You know, he just has that. And what bothers him mostly when he has fellas working for him, guy texting and putting up a tent.
Well, that's today. People are
That's
doing that all the
today.
time.
That bothers him.
Well, if you can find somebody that can put up a tent with one hand, you should keep that person. No?
Right? He's not an octopus.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you kind of a serious question. Can I ask you serious questions?
Okay.
It's not, I'm not trying to scare you. It's not serious, but it's more of a spiritual question. Spiritual question.
Yes.
Okay, so do you think about God in your life, or?
Yes, we're very religious, and we can go to church constantly, and we're always at church. And summer, winter, and the whole thing, we always try. The only time we'd miss if the weather or something would be a problem for us. You know, we are a little more careful in the wintertime than we don't want to be walking into church and slipping and stuff. And then so,
Yeah, you don't want to do
especially
that.
at our age.
Have you seen, if you look back at your life, or you look at it now, presently, and you think about things, think about the future or the past, and have you seen the hand of God in your life working in there, moving?
I'm not quite. I don't see that.
No?
I don't see the picture. I would say my wife does more than I do. But,
She does?
Yes, she's very much conscious of the church and God.
She shares that with you?
Huh?
She shares that with you?
Yes. She and I were married in the Greek Catholic Church, and the church is in New York, and she, when she gets buried, she wants to have a Greek Catholic priest there too, and we'll accommodate that. And,
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
yes. Her mother, when they came from Europe, they were all they weren't Roman Catholics. They were the Greek Catholic Church. See.
No, the Slovakia, was it?
Oh well, no, it's the same as the Roman Catholic,
Yeah.
but they speak a different language in the church.
Mm-hmm.
But they are tied in with Rome.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
The Rome has 7 rites to the church. There's an Ethiopian rite, there's a Greek rite, and there's several others that
You mean
are
branches?
huh
Branches? Is that what you mean?
branches of the Roman
Huh.
Catholic Church. There's 7 of them.
Hmm. I didn't know that.
Yes, all your apostles, when they went out, they went out so far that they started almost a different church and stuff because they were too far away from the center to
Yeah.
get the information that they wanted to keep certain policies a certain way.
Mhm.
So some of these churches have changed because they were away from Rome for so many years. They had Indian has a separate one. They sent apostles to India, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they established their church a little differently than the other churches. With the language is different in the church. The Roman was all Latin, and her church was a Slavonic language was in Mary's church. See?
What is something that you find yourself thinking about frequently during the day?
I don't think too much about anything. Everything is in place.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have anything out of place that I know of. Things don't bother me anyway. I just go and tackle it, you know. And I don't any of our children the same way. If there's a problem, boy, they boom right on to
Get
it.
to it.
Yeah, and if we need anything, boom, they got it before I even think of it. So
Well-
it's been a very good life for us, and we have no regrets.
Oh, that's a good thing. Last time when I interviewed you the first time, I asked you if you had something that you wanted to share before you left, because unfortunately I had to stop you because the hour was almost over.
Yes,
And so you said that your children are your best friends.
yes,
You said that.
I still are.
They still are.
They still are.
Hasn't changed since the last
I
time.
haven't charged. Not at all. Not at all. They all are wonderful, and they all get along together wonderfully, and that's God bless them all. Yeah.
And you also have grandchildren.
Oh, great grandchildren.
Great grandchildren.
7 grandchildren, then
Oh.
2.5 of the great.
Do you spend time with them here and there, or?
Washington,
Yeah.
Denver, New Haven.
Oh, so you have to travel to go see them and so forth.
They come in occasionally, but not often. And so you don't see too many of the ones that are all away. And that's what children are today. They travel all over, you know. They'll never stay home anymore. You know, they go to college, they meet other people, and there they go. Yeah. So you send them off to be educated, and they get educated.
Well, what I wanted to do is I did earlier tell you that what if I forgot to thank you for your service to our country. 'Cause
Yes,
I never told you that before.
Thank you.
I
Yes.
should have said that the first time I saw you, but
Yes.
and I think that more people should do that, especially
Yes.
you serve your country. Your father served your country also.
Yes. I mentioned one thing. On the Iwo Jima, there is 5 men that put up the flag on Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's down in Washington, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mary Strank is my wife's name. Maiden name is Strank.
Yeah.
Michael Strank, her cousin, is on that statue in
That's
Washington.
not it, is it? That's not the one we're thinking about. Right?
Huh?
Is that the statue? Or is
Yes, it is.
That's the statue.
Yes, and he's one of the men on it. And in addition to that, that is the one that I filled in with. In other words, I was in the replacement division, and that was the company I was in. When
Is that right?
yes,
I picked that picture sort of randomly because I knew you were in World War II.
of all the men, there was
Yeah.
only one that came back to the company, and he was they call him Chief Hayes. His name was Hayes, the last
Yeah.
name, and he's the only one that got back to the regiment afterwards. The other one, the others couple died, and then the others, they went on a bond raising tour in the United States, and they raised billions of dollars for the government on a bond tour of the United States. The Chief Hayes started off with them, but they asked him not to go with them because he wasn't behaving himself. He was a drinker, and he got over to there, and he caused a lot of problems, so they sent him back to the regiment.
Yeah, I think that's the actual picture,
Yes,
from which they made the statue.
yes.
Yeah.
And that whole group, there was also the whole troop of that was there. You only see that part of the picture.
Yeah.
There's more of the picture with more people in it, but they cut that out right into that.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
whereas
it's
the
beautiful.
fellows was it was a whole platoon of Marines standing all around that area because they were still fighting at that time.
Well, that's a great bit of trivia.
Yeah, but
Well.
that was a cousin of Mary's. Yeah, and from Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Cousin of your wife.
Wife,
Yeah.
yes, she was a Strank,
Huh.
and they have a get together every 2 years. The Strank family. And we go out to it and meet all the people in the Strank family, which was large.
Yeah.
They had 11 kids, I think, 11 aunts and uncles.
Well, thank you very much again for joining me. I want to
Yes.
remind the viewers, whoever is watching, that these books will be at Catalina's
And
for
Northbridge.
the taking in Northbridge. There's more than one Catalina?
Huh? I don't know, but
And these books also, but this is yours, right?
that's a picture of, we were at a convention, yes.
Yeah, that's your wife.
And yes, and me,
That's-
when we were in our 40s, I think.
Oh. That looks like that was taken a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, Mr. Tonry.
Okay.
It's a pleasure, it's an honor.
Okay,
to have
and
you
thank
as a
you.
guest.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and we'll see you again next time for the next person who will come and join us to share their story.